Do you ever find that sometimes the hardest part about making a layout is just getting started? That's where I am with this layout. I have pulled some product, I've pulled some photos. That is my starting point. And then we're just gonna go from there and see what happens. I know that I want to scrapbook photos from the creative design team trip to Vancouver. This little like hike around Stanley Park, I have not scrapbooked yet, and I only have a few more layouts to kind of finish scrapbooking up that trip, so I would like to get that done fairly soon. I have in front of me the Weekend Adventures scrapbooking workshop kit. So I've actually already made this kit. I made all the layouts with my customers on Zoom. You got the full cutting guide, directions, and photos of how to put it all together. These kits make scrapbooking so super easy. And of course, sometimes we like to go our own way. So I actually have a second kit here. And this has some really nice neutral patterns, some great outdoor kind of patterns. We've got these trees, some little acorns, a nice little subtle pattern. There's blue splatter, which totally looks like a starry sky. And this fun like hiking pattern. Got paw prints and compass. And then because it's the workshop kit, you also get exclusive papers. So these are single-sided. We have a dark wood grain. If you guys know me, then you know I love a good wood grain. And then we have 2 sheets of this lighter wood grain. Then there are also coordinating cardstocks that come in here. This is the 2-tone cardstock, which means one side is lighter, one side is darker for each of the colors. And then we have a sticker sheet. So lots of fun outdoorsy type sayings, some smaller size pieces, which I always love, helps kind of fill out a cluster, as well as phrase strips. Love that. We got some tags and journaling spots. Lots of really good usable things in here. There are also die cut sheets. I've already been kind of picking away at this one. So these are just like punch outs, and they are not sticky like a sticker. But you get 2 sheets of them in here, which is awesome. Lots of things to add to the layouts, all in coordinating colors. Now, one of the hardest things to do when you're starting a layout can be to narrow down your photos. So I'm gonna try hard for this layout not to use a million photos. Often for traveling, that is my go-to, is just find layout designs or create a layout design where I can fit as many photos as possible. But sometimes I want to have a little bit more fun with the design. Maybe I want to add more embellishments. And so I need to be a little bit more brutal in purging my photos. So let's go over to my computer and I'll share a little bit of my process with you over there. So here we are inside of iPhoto. I have a Mac, so that's what I use. And I'm inside our shared album. So you can see on the left here under shared albums, I have one for our Vancouver trip. This is a great thing to do if you are traveling with other people, whether it's family or friends. We have another one for our San Diego trip. It's just very helpful to be able to put everybody's photos in together. And not for Vancouver, but for San Diego, we decided to upload once a day. And so we put everyone's photos in from that day at the end of the day, which makes it much easier looking through. This trip, things are kind of all mixed together, so you really have to scroll through to find all of the photos. And I think the way we did it for San Diego really helped, kind of uploading once a day and then keeping the same events together. So once I'm in here looking at all my photos, lots of times you have photos that have multiple shots of the same thing. Someone maybe has their eyes closed in one. Another person has their face looking kind of weird in another one, right? Lots of times we have multiples. So my first thing to do is to go through and just delete the extras, save the best one that represents what we were doing the best. I'm not going to delete on here because this is our shared album and I don't want to be deleting other people's photos. But if this was in my library, I would delete all the extras and keep just the best. And then as I'm scrolling through and finding my photos that I want to use, I'm going to take my photos and drag them into Photos to Print. So I have an album over here called Photos to Print, and that's where I like to drop everything that I think I might want to use. So this is one way to start paring down these photos, and we'll just drop them all in there. And then once I have kind of a good selection from that one event or that one location, we can go in here and I can see what I have all together. Now, this is the point where it's great to have a design, whether you're using a sketch or you're coming up with your own design. It's really helpful at this point to be able to know how many portrait photos do I need? How many landscape? Do I need square photos? If at this step you can decide how many photos and what orientation you need, it will make the process smoother. Now, sometimes there are photos that maybe aren't the most aesthetically pleasing photos, but they tell the story. So like for this one, we are standing here in Stanley Park trying to figure out which way to go, where we even are on the map. I think we're all spoiled by being the moving blue dot on our little GPS, so we could see exactly where we are, but we were trying to figure out which way to walk, where we wanted to end up. And that is definitely part of the story. We were searching around for a while trying to find the right trail to get on. I think we were a little bit scarred by our previous experience at Lynn Canyon, where we wandered around for a very long time when we could have just taken the very easy little walk over to the waterfall. And so I think we were trying extra hard to make sure that we found the right way to go. So I am going to include this one on my page because of the story it supports. And of course, you don't need to have photos of everything to tell the story. Include a nice sampling of photos from that event or that location, but you can still talk about things in the journaling that aren't shown in the photos. Lots of times I forget to take photos. Now, there's other things like this tree photo. This is kind of a fun angle, and the girls look so tiny next to this huge tree. But if I have to choose, because real estate on my page is at a premium, I'm probably going to go with this one because there's more of us in here. I think it looks really fun that we're all holding hands around this tree, and you still get that size comparison. You still get to see how large that tree is. Now, could I throw a flip-flap on my page and include both of those? Yes, I definitely could. But if I have to narrow it down, I'm going to choose this one. So now that we have selected our photos, we've pared it down, let's go ahead and figure out a design. So this can be a great time to reach for a sketch. One of my go-tos for layouts is definitely to create some sort of grid, whether it's a perfect grid or not, ton of little photos, or maybe it's just like 4 3x4s all stacked together. That is one that I do use a lot, is to do something like that. And then maybe have some bigger photos on the other page. We can even turn that into more of a grid like that. I think we could make it a little bit more interesting and do something just a little bit different. What if we take our grid and we turn it on an angle? Now, I have not made a layout like this before, so this could be really good or it could be an epic failure. We're just going to play with it and see how it goes. I'm thinking I may not end up using all of my photos that I have printed here. And you know what? I think I want to slide these together so I can get a good feel for how this is going to flow from one page to the next. And I'm just trying to match up the corners on all of these. And it's okay if they hang over a little bit because I think it'll look fine if I just trim off a tiny little bit. I'm not sure how easy this is going to be to like line things up and try and get it straight because it's on an angle. We could turn this and kind of follow the same idea but make everything straight. You could also use the same size. So this would look really good if I had all 4x4s and I could do all 4x4 photos and maybe even do like 4x4 pattern paper in between and create like a checkerboard. I think I'm going to be standing up a lot while I do this page to try and get like a bird's eye view what you guys are seeing. Sometimes I like sit down and scrapbook, but I think I'm going to need to stand up a lot so I can make sure I'm creating a straight line. Now I did go for a mix of sizes because I wanted to have some landscape photos just because the way we are situated, some of these work better as portrait. These ones were originally portraits, but it was just greenery above, so I cut them down into 4x4s because I didn't want to have big 4x6s kind of getting cut off. You could do that though. Now I have 2 more photos that I was considering using. I mean, I do have kind of the beach view behind us here, so that's not critical. I could cut that. This one I did really want to include because we were kind of scrambling through the brush using the back way to get down to the beach. And I just thought it was a fun little photo. Janice did so good. Her knee was bothering her, but she was right in there with us scrambling through the bush. So this is a great opportunity to bring in a flip flap. These are clear flaps that have an adhesive strip on them. And basically you can just put your photos back to back. And I usually like to adhere mine so that they stay in place and they don't shift around in the pocket. Once you have your pages done, you stick them into the page protector, you peel off this covering on the sticky, and then you can put it over top of wherever you have a similar sized photo. So any of these, I could stick it over top on the page protector, and then it just adds extra photos, extra journaling. It's such a good way to use a little bit more minimal design and still squeeze in lots of photos, because you could definitely have several on a page as long as they're not getting cut off by the edge. Like I would say this one or this one are the best options for putting a flip flap because it's not near the edges anywhere. If I did a flip flap on here, it's possible that the flip flap would get snagged on the edge of my page, or as my pages are flipping in my album, that I would run into trouble with that. But something that's in the middle of your page, I think those are the safest ones. Okay, now you might be wondering, what am I going to do with all these empty spaces in between? Well, I could put pattern paper, but what I was thinking is more like a little collage of elements. So like tags and different icons. I pulled some from the little punch out sheets, the die cut sheets that come with this workshop guide. And I was thinking we could just kind of spread them around. I got lots of little arrows and tags and things like that. It's fun to use little chevrons and stuff to point to different things in your photos. And the bonus of doing this instead of putting like pattern paper pieces in here is that it doesn't matter if things are uneven. It kind of fills in the space, but doesn't have to like perfectly fill it in, because we do have changes in heights in our photos. And we also don't need to worry about these little kind of wedges of space and trying to measure paper. It just makes things a lot more simple. I did go into my little sticky embellishment binder. I use one of those sticky photo albums to keep all my little die cuts and stamped images and things like that. So I have like leftover stickers. These are all close to my heart, I believe, just things I've had in my stash. I even have some little paperboard geotags, some arrows. So I just tried to grab some things that I thought might work for this. So I have a little stash of that off to the side, as well as I do have my full sticker sheet. So I could definitely work in some of these icons as well. Now I would like to bring in some of the pattern paper because it's a beautiful pack. And I think I would like to have some of those patterns going on so that it's not too plain or too many little pieces. I think what I'm gonna do is I have this buildable tags die from Close to My Heart, and I'm going to take one of the tags and I'm gonna die cut them out of the pattern paper. I might even do one that is for journaling, so I can put my journaling on a tag, maybe even like print out my journaling. I'm gonna go ahead and cut those, and then we'll play around with that. All right, off camera, I went ahead and cut down my photos by 1/4 of an inch, and then I matted them on white. I'm using more like cream and beige on this layout, but I thought white would be a good contrast just to help them pop a little bit. And I think we should be okay with the bits that I'm going to have to cut off that are hanging over the edge. I went ahead and cut out my tags, just went and grabbed some of the patterns of the paper. For this green one, I did need to pay attention to which way the design was going and where I was going to put this tag, just because it is a directional print. Okay, so let's start with that one. I think I want to pair these two together over here. I'm thinking I'm going to leave little gaps around the edges of whatever I put in these spaces, just to give it a little bit of breathing room. Right, and we have this little pattern over here. And I want to space out the red buffalo plaid, so I'm going to bring that over onto this page. And then I was debating if I wanted to repeat the brown over here, but I think I'd like to bring in some blue. This does have a little bit of water, but it's very muted, whereas the blue over here is really bright. So I'm thinking if I bring in some of the blue paper, that will help just spread the blue around the page a little bit. Now I think for my journaling, I actually want to use this piece from the sticker sheet, and it has this little border. I like to cut my stickers right out of the base sheet, so they're actually still stuck onto the backing, and I can move them around and test them out in different spots. But I'm thinking this would be a nice little cluster for my journaling. It's a little bit more substantial, and I think that will work out good. Now I kind of want to keep placing things down and figure out where I want everything and see if I need to shift anything. So I haven't stuck these photos down because I'm thinking I may need to tweak placement, maybe straighten something out a little bit more. So I'm just going to keep placing my stickers and embellishments and make sure it's working before I adhere my photos down. So put this let's hike over here, and I might let a few things sort of overlap the photos or come out past the edge just to add a little bit of a whimsical touch to it. All right, I have this circle from the sticker sheet. I'll put that right there for now. It might be nice to break everything up with some circle shapes because we have a lot of straight lines, and I was planning to use this one, which is a die cut from the pack as well. So I'm thinking if I bring in a few more circles, that might be a good idea. There's this little like cross section of a tree, and I was thinking maybe bring it in over here somewhere just to repeat that circular element and fill in that little gap. Here's another little circle from my stash. It's kind of nice to just play, try things out, see if they work, see if the spacing works, and we can always readjust and move things around if needed. I had these little arrows over here. I kind of wish I had a third in this color because that would fit perfectly right there. Keep my eyes open and see if I have something that's a good size to go right in that spot. These little geotags are paperboard. They have like a wood grain pattern on them. So yeah, I definitely need something that's gonna go in there. And I also need something that's gonna go in this little kind of like empty space here. I don't want anything that I have to cut and try and bridge the gap between the two pages. I have a couple of like phrase strips. I have this file tab. Maybe one of them will work okay here. Just don't want it overlapping the edge. It has to fit. This is such a great way to use pieces from your stash. And if you have lots of little embellishments and stuff, this is a great way to use those up. Some little chevrons here. Since I have a few things with black, I kind of want to move that around the layout. Okay, I want something under this circle here because it just kind of blends into the background. I need another color behind it. And I think maybe this blue would be perfect for that, just to add a little bit more blue and add some separation. So I cut a circle from the Spotlight on Nature set. It has some simple details around the outside. Rather than back the circle directly, what if I put it behind the tag? Kind of go like that. I have a lot of pieces that have words on them, but I was thinking maybe I still want a title. So I pulled out the Weekend Adventures stamp set. This is a great one to go along with this paper pack. All the stamps in here would actually work pretty good, but I was thinking the adventure starts here. Might be a good option. The tricky part will be getting it straight but also angled. But I was thinking I could stamp it over here somewhere, and since we're using a light colored background, I could stamp it right on there. Okay, I want to bring in some greenery, and I thought maybe this Scenic Adventure set would be a good one to use. So I'm bringing in some of the trees and the mountain. I really like this mountain die. We got a couple little options here. This one, we could make it a snow-capped mountain if we want to. This is what it looks like when you just cut it out. It has no definite edge, so you could repeat it and do like a whole mountain range if you want to. And I'm thinking I could put this kind of on top like that and just match up the edges. And then I also have a little tree border that's from the same set, and I could just layer that right in front. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and die cut some more trees and maybe work them into my clusters. This cluster needs something. I need to figure out what I wanna do on this tag, if I wanna do another circle or maybe a mountain. I need to figure that out, and this probably needs something as well. And then I'll come back and we can kind of put on the finishing touches. All right, I've added just a few more things since I turned the camera off, and I went into my stash and I found some more of the wood grain paperboard pieces. So I added some stars here, I added a little circle here. Originally I had this one pulled, but it just was not fitting spacing wise. Another paperboard piece that says Best Life. I brought in another star over here and another one over there. I added this Having Fun sticker from the sticker sheet. And then of course the die cut pieces. So over here I added just a piece of the mountain, and you can see I have cut everything off here on the edge now, so you can see what that's going to look like. I added some trees in Old Olive, and these are all just down flat, and then I popped up this piece. Most of my pieces I kept flat when I was sticking them on. I just thought it would make things a little bit easier. And then over on this side, I decided to do a mountain, and then I took my scissors and just hand cut around kind of where the edge of the die is to give it a more organic edge to it so it's not so blunt. And then I cut trees in Mossy Meadow and Old Olive and just layered them together. I did cut off the tree trunks for these because they look kind of weird poking out the side there. And then another set of trees in the Mossy Meadow. And then I showed you this over here that I was going to do. Because I used the light side of the basic beige, it's very similar to my background, but I'm totally good with that. I didn't want it to be high contrast. I just wanted a little something there, and I think it works out really well with the flow of the page. And you can see I did put it in 3 spots, nicely staggered, and that just helps with balancing the layout. I did decide to bring one of those green chevrons from over here into here because I just wanted a row of 3. It was perfect size for this space. And you can see I do still have a couple of little empty areas here and there. In here, I'd like to put something there. I don't have a lot of small things to add, so I think what I'm going to do is bring in some bling. This is the pressed flower motifs, and they're in a couple sizes. They are metal studs. They have a really pretty pattern on them, and I think they will go really good with the feeling of this page. Now, the last thing I want to do on here that's a little bit risky is stamp my title. So I did do a very faint pencil line. I don't know if you can see that. Did a very faint pencil line to decide exactly where I want my title to be. Now to stamp it, I'm thinking maybe I should use my stamp platform. That way, if I don't get a perfect impression the first time, I can do it again and not have to worry. All right, I think I decided I'm gonna put it right under that photo. I'm just bringing in my stamp platform. And this is one of the reasons why I like platforms that are open so that I can fit any size paper on there. Just really helps when you are a scrapbooker and being able to go ahead and stamp right on your scrapbook page. So I'm going to make sure I have that right up against the sides, and then we'll pick up our stamp, and then I'm going to readjust, make sure I get it right back flush up to the sides again. Now I'm anticipating having to stamp this a few times to get it as dark as I want. I did debate using a dark brown, but I think I'm going to go ahead and use black because I do have black on other spots on my layout. All right, here we go. So that was twice, and I have to say I like that. I think that looks really good. It's maybe not as deep and dark as I could get it, but the black that I have here isn't as deep and dark either. So I think this is going to be perfect. Okay, we have a couple of finishing details to do. So linen thread for my tags. This is my favorite. I use a lot of linen thread. I made sure when I put my tags down that I didn't glue down the tops of the tags so that I could easily pull them up. I could have put the thread on then too, but just wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I can always add a little bit of glue onto my tags. And I can also put little dots of glue down to get my tag where, or to get my twine to stay where I want it to stay. All right, tags are done. And now I have this little strip right here that I want to put something on. Typically I would like write the date or something, but this is all from the same time frame, and I'm gonna have the date in other places. So I grabbed this Celebrate Together set. This is one of the sets that's designed for scrapbooking. I have some good options of sayings that will fit on that little strip. So I'm gonna use the Best of Friends. I'm going to use my black ink pad again. I did a little test stamp off camera. There we go. I love having stamp sets like that that give you just the perfect little touch for your pages. I think the last thing is just to add our bling, fill in any of the remaining spots, and then we can call it done. I think that is it for our layout. I'll lift it up here so you can get a nice close-up of all those little details. There is quite a bit going on this layout for sure. I really like how this is still a grid, but a little bit different take on a grid. And I think the angle just adds a little bit more fun and movement to it as well. You could definitely do this straight across. If you're not a fan of the angle or you just think it's a little bit too hard for you to work with, I think it would work really well just to go straight across. Or you could go with just a 4x4 grid, have 2 4x4 rows, and I think that would work really good too. I'm super happy with how this turned out. I hope you enjoyed watching the process and hearing my photo tips. If you want some more travel scrapbook inspiration, you can check out this video here, and I'll see you again soon with another video.